Yeah, good point.
Okay, guys, we are back, and we have an attorney that is in the courtroom as well. And we heard the cross-examination. I just call her the balcony girl. Before we go into the next witness, let's talk about what did you think about the cross-examination by Attorney Westmoreland. And tell everyone your name.
My name is Joe Neerman. My YouTube and Rumble channel is called Good Logic. You can find me on X as @TheFollowingPro. And I'm a New York attorney. I practiced in this very courthouse. And that cross was textbook. That was an amazing cross, from the way she set her up to the way she knocked her over, and the potential ramifications could actually knock out a lot of Cassie's testimony if the jury takes from it what the defense is hoping they'll take from it. And the messaging was really, really on point and blunt. It got blunter and blunter as it went along. Should I walk you through exactly how she set it up so well?
Well, yes, and I want to drill down on what you just said. Mm-hmm. The testimony of this witness could punch holes in Cassie's testimony.
Yeah.
Why is that?
So what they did was they established that Cassie and this woman who's known as Bana, that they're part of a circle of friends, and Bana's the last of like 5 different friends who would hang out with Cassie. Really, Bana was involved from 2015 to 2018, and there was one particular incident that we've heard reference to with respect to Bana, who was she was the primary drug supplier to Cassie, as far as we can tell, and that's where Diddy came into Cassie's apartment and allegedly tried throwing her over the balcony or dangling over a balcony. We heard about this balcony incident.
And it lost in a civil lawsuit.
It came up in a civil lawsuit, but from the criminal trial perspective, we and the jury heard about this in opening statement. They mentioned, when they were talking about the various hostilities of Diddy, they mentioned that he even tried dangling a woman off of a balcony. And you envision when you hear that, like he's holding her by her legs off the edge of a balcony, like the Michael Jackson video of holding a baby. That's what I was picturing. And we've heard reference to it and questions as to whether or not Cassie was there when the whole balcony incident went down. Who was there? And all these questions. What was the position of Diddy and Bana when this whole thing was happening? Was she really hanging off? Where was she? And on direct testimony, so she seemed to be presenting not only the balcony story, but a couple of other stories that we had never heard about of different forms of Diddy hostility. One time, supposedly, he grabbed her and stood up close to her face and said, "I'm the demon, I can kill you." She also talked about a knife-throwing incident. These are 2 incidents and 2 types of Diddy hostility we had not heard about from anyone. But on cross-examination, in particular with questioning about the balcony, but even about the knife-throwing incident, you saw it there,
right?
That she seemed as if she had difficulty, that when she told this story over at different times, and when Cassie presented the story, there's a lot of significant, noteworthy contradictions, and we started hearing about that yesterday. We started hearing about how Cassie, in her lawsuit against Diddy, she said it was in a hotel. She said there was a woman there named Terry, and these are things that were not in the Bana story. Then we started hearing about what Bana told the police from the first time she met them all the way back in 2024, all the way through June 2nd of 2025, which is 2 days before she got up on the stand. And there are various changes of things that you're like, that you wouldn't think you would get that wrong if you were telling the story over clearly. One time she's smoking a cigarette, another time she's doing marijuana, another time she's pretending to have marijuana. Then one time she's telling the police that Diddy came rushing at her directly, and she remembers distinctly him rushing at her.
She remembers this distinctly. Mm-hmm. Why is that a problem?
Well, because if that's what she's saying that she has a very vivid memory of, then what other things she's blurry on? If that's what she's vivid on, and when she gets on the stand and gives direct testimony, and her testimony was not that he was rushing at her, but that she came up from behind and lifted up under her arms and then pushed her up on her head onto the balcony railing there, that's a very different incident. It's like, Absolutely. Are you gearing up for the person running at you? You don't forget that.
You don't forget that. But let's surmise this part here. Let's surmise how the defense not kill that motion based on
that
testimony.
Was yesterday they were talking about the problems with that story, but today I thought it couldn't get worse. It got much worse because today she starts asking her about pictures that she took, because after she was on the balcony, she said that Diddy took her and threw her over to the side and gave her a massive welt on her leg and neck and head injuries, and then she took a picture with metadata on her phone of her leg that day.
And let's talk about the setup. How did Westmoreland set that line of questioning up, and then how the next 7 to 8 questions put the nail in the coffin for this witness.
So she said, so this all happened on September. This picture was taken September 26, 2016. Right? Yes, you can see in the metadata here. It was September 26, 9:30 in the morning, September 26. That's when you took this picture, and that's a couple of hours after the balcony incident. Yes. Okay, fine. Are you aware of where Diddy was on September 25th?
Before you answer that, let people know what information does metadata provide in a photo.
Okay.
Key one, yeah. GPS location.
Yes,
let's
exactly.
go.
So metadata is what's actually describing inside your phone, and when they pull off the phone records, it's describing when the picture was taken, where it was taken, and all how many pixels are in it. The metadata is breaking down the nuts and bolts that we don't see in the picture to let us know exactly how this picture and this image came to be. So now we know this picture was taken at 9:30 in the morning or thereabouts on September 26, 2016. So there's no refuting that. Bonna testified this is a few hours after the balcony incident.
Wait, we saw a folio. Let's talk about the folio we saw at Trump Hotel.
Well, again,
we're getting there. Okay.
I'm working my way there.
Okay.
So that means that this incident had to happen on September 26, 2016, because it's a few hours after. It has to have been that morning. And so then she starts asking and saying to her, so when you were you aware where Diddy was?
How do you open this? I'm sorry. How do you open it? Why? Yeah, open it for me so I can get the phone. Just don't go nowhere. We just open it, widen it up for me. Okay. Guys, stand by. We're just adjusting this because my arm is dying over here. Can I get in or just slide it in? Well, pause.
You got the case.
Should I take the case off or? No, we're good. We're good. Just lock it in. Let me, okay. Yeah, this is good. All right, let's go.
So then she started, I don't think you can hear me, that's why I was
worried. Yeah, no, just enunciate louder. Yeah.
Okay, so then they started asking, are you aware where Diddy was on September 25th, the day before, 2016? And she's like, no, I don't know. Well, he was performing in the Prudential Center in New Jersey that evening, and he was on stage with Kim.
Lil Kim
that night. And we were where Cassie was that night on September 25th. Where? She was at the Prudential Center with Diddy.
Right.
And are you aware where he was on September 26th during the day? No, I don't know. I don't keep track of his schedule. On September 26th, he was in New York
at the Boys and
Girls Achievement Center, or some sort of benefit for achievement, recognizing them. And that was on September 26th. That's where he was. Are you aware that he was at Trump Tower? And then she's like, I don't know where he stays. Well, he was at Trump Tower. Here's a record of his bill from Trump Tower. They checked in there on September 25th and doesn't check out until September 29th.
Well, before we go past the folio.
I'm not going past that.
Okay, so there were.
I'm going in order here.
Right, okay, so meals being served. There was food being ordered.
He'd ordered him 3 different meals on September 26, 2016, the day that this incident allegedly happened. And then she's like, is it possible for a person to be in the same 2 different places at the same time? And she's like, and her response was funny. She's like, in theory?
In theory? What are you talking about in theory? What are we talking about in theory?
That's what the
2 people
said.
can't be in the same place, not just in theory, but in practicality. It just can't happen.
Because Cassie's apartment is in Los Angeles.
That's right.
And if it's in Los Angeles, he can't be 3,000 miles apart the same day at the same time. It doesn't make any sense.
Makes no sense at all.
So that was, and what was terrible, and then she was pounding on this even further, because it's not just about getting Bonna's testimony knocked out. But she kept drilling on the fact that you were talking to Cassie before, during, and after when she's filing her lawsuit. The two of you were working your story together, weren't you?
And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, I said there's a problem with Cassie's testimony as well. Because if she has holes in her story, and we're talking about the balcony woman, then Cassie has holes in her story.
Especially if the jury believes that they're coordinating what the story is. That's not they're talking from their memory of truth, but this is a coordinated story that she has several friends who they saw Cassie cash in and get $30 million and decide, hey, I want to go after him for money also. No, this one's going for $10 million and that one's going for $10 million.
Well, $20 million. The $10 million came afterwards, but the $20 million is what people have been focusing on. The sell. We didn't know the number until Cassie testified.
Right. No, well, she sued for
$10 million for the hotel.
Right. No. So with Cassie, she had two different lawsuits. So against Diddy, she sued $30 million. The day after she filed that lawsuit, they settled for $20 million.
That's right.
And then she got another $10 million from the Intercontinental for the video that became infamous, where he was kicking her and throwing her to the ground in the Intercontinental.
Absolutely.
So she got a total of $30 million, 20 from Diddy, 10 from the Intercontinental.
That's right.
It was after her Diddy lawsuit that her friends started filing that Kerry Morgan for the hangar incident.
That's right.
And then now you have Bono also suing for $10 million for this balcony incident.
Let's not forget Mia. She's testified that initially she wanted $10 million, but only got $400,000.
Right.
Let's not forget Mia.
I appreciate you bringing that up. Yes, Mia as well. Also, she was looking for $10 million. So now Mia also considers herself a close friend of Cassie as well. The two of them hung out. So if the jury starts thinking that her story is being coordinated, even if they believe some elements of what she's saying, they're much more likely to be dismissive and say, you know what, you probably went along with it. You were his girlfriend. And I don't think he really was compelling you. I think that just bolsters your story.
That's right.
One of the things that was hit on today in cross-examination was if your story is believed, don't you think that helps your lawsuit? Have you ever been a rich person before? No. And you see this as your chance to make $10 million. And she said to her straight out, you lied to the ladies and gentlemen of this jury when you told that balcony story, didn't you? And what's her response? I don't think so. I disagree with that assessment.
And then Ms. Westmoreland said to the court, I'm done with this witness.
No further questions.
Let me ask you a question. Attorney Blackburn, I know you're a lawyer.
Tyrone Blackburn. That was her first attorney.
Okay, so there was testimony. Right, there was testimony during Bonner's testimony that certain things were added to a lawsuit that wasn't true.
Right.
Didn't you have an issue with that?
Well, look, I wasn't there for the conversations between Bonner and Tyrone Blackburn. There was a demand letter that Tyrone sent Diddy on January 31st, 2024.
Okay.
Which was 2 weeks after she met with the police.
That's right.
And in that, he was demanding money, $10 million from Diddy for the balcony incident, and he said that she was sexually groped, that he had grabbed her breasts, and when she saw this letter, she says she fired him because there were allegations he put in there which were not true. So that's part of the question: is where did he come up with this? Did he, was it miscommunication? Was he exaggerating because he figured that would help? Maybe he'll get a quick paycheck from Diddy. Well, what happened there? We don't know who's at fault. We don't know if it's Bonner's fault. We don't know if the lawyer's fault.
I have to say respectfully, if a lawyer's exaggerating in a lawsuit, I have a problem with that.
100%. Well, it wasn't the lawsuit; it was the demand letter.
The demand letter
before, but it's still
exaggeration.
100%. 100%. 1,000%. Yeah, that's messed up.
Right. So
anyway,
let's talk about the direct on Jane Doe and why this testimony. My position right now, listening to her testimony.
Yeah.
If we to believe her testimony, it does appear there was some manipulation, maybe. The way they're
trying to make it the way that what the state wants us to take from Jane's testimony, and her story sounds very similar to Cassie, but just taking place a decade, 15 years later. But it sounds like pretty much the same story, where it's like, you know, she falls deep, head over heels in love with Diddy, and he's whining and dining them, and at a certain point he introduces them to his voyeuristic perspectives. Right. And the next thing you know, they're engaging in hotel nights or freak-offs or whatever you want to call them, where she spends the rest of her relationship performing sexually with other men for his amusement. But here's the problem for the state from what we got from the early parts.
Well, the government.
Whenever I say state, I mean the government.
Right, okay.
So the problem for the government is one thing that she said there. She talked about how she felt obligated, but when pressed on why she felt obligated, she says, because he's my boyfriend, he's my partner, and that's what I'm supposed to do for my boyfriend. That's not coercion. That is a choice.
Okay.
Now,
All right.
I will say this.
All right.
It's very early in her direct testimony.
Very early.
I assume, based on various references that have been made during the course of the state said in opening that Jane was assaulted as recently as a year ago by Diddy. Mm-hmm. So I assume we'll hear direct testimony from her about that. And if in fact he got physical, that certainly would help a lot with the whole coercion thing. And I don't think any of us would be surprised if we hear testimony that he did get physical with her, based on what we've seen and heard so far. Right. That there was some physical, but they're trying to portray it that he basically got her on drugs, that she never really done drugs. She had only done X twice before in her life, and then she goes on a trip with him and she does it 10 times in 9 days, and that he basically kept her drugged up to take away her actual free choice. And
why is that a problem, counselor? If you to believe that he kept her drugged up, why would that be a problem?
Well, in that case, she can't form her own decision to actually decide to do something, and Diddy would be stripping her the opportunity to make a free choice there. So that would be considered part of the coercive force and control towards the Sex Trafficking Act, which is 18 U.S.C. 1591. So that's one element. The other element is the financial element, that they basically tried to portray him as keeping her from being able to earn any money. And that was another thing. She said, I needed his approval because he's my boyfriend. Right. So how can you say he's financially controlling her if she's making a decision that she's not going to do something unless her boyfriend agrees? That's a decision she's making. I also question whether a jury is going to be like, because she said her financial opportunity, one of them is that she could have gone on OnlyFans, and she likely could have. She's a very, most objectively, she's an attractive woman. Even we're not giving her name.
We can't give her name.
We're not giving her name.
But
I've had
she's
speculation as to who she is, and I've confirmed I probably know who she is. But I'm definitely not using her name. I won't use on my broadcast. I won't use on your broadcast.
No, we're not doing that.
And we should respect her privacy.
That's right.
What I would tell you is that she's objectively a very pretty woman. And she basically was saying that, you know, one of her girlfriend models made $4 million during the early days of OnlyFans, and she went to Diddy and asked that she wouldn't be engaging in sex, but that she would be doing bikini work and lingerie work and implied nudity, and that he said no to that, and she was the implication was that
you take care of her.
That he'd take care of her, that she was stripped of an opportunity to break free of him financially. And instead that he was giving her $120,000 a year, which based on what her earning potential could have been, sounds relatively paltry. That's how the state will frame it. Whether the jury accepts it or not.
Interesting you said the OnlyFans. I'm just reading the comment, but I'm going to leave that there, so I can't confirm anything.
I'll tell you this. So then you can ask the question. What we can see of the jury. Well, are you in the jury room?
Yeah, I'm in the main court.
Most of them seem a significant percentage are older folks, right? I mean, I would say that they're certainly old. They look older than me, a lot of them, right? A couple of younger minorities, and then older white people. That's what I've been able to see from the heads that have passed by. I've been in the viewing room the whole time. So the question is, are they going to look at that as if that's such a terrible thing that he's keeping her off of OnlyFans? I think a lot of guys, I wouldn't let my woman go on OnlyFans.
Not when I'm a millionaire.
Yeah. I mean,
but here's the thing that we have to remember. In the very beginning, the first 5 days that they stayed together, after they were completed, he sent her $10,000.
Right.
So he just sent that to her because she spent her time. But he sent that to her, and there was another instance where he sent her $10,000.
I mean, well, people look at that as it's coming from Diddy, who's a billionaire.
Right.
So people look at that as if he's being overly generous.
You're taking care of your woman.
He's trying to take care. I'm not passing judgment positively or negatively
I'm just saying
on the $10,000. I'm just saying, I'm like, look, $10,000. She said to her was a lot of money at that point in time in her life. She said that was a lot of money to her.
Yeah.
So that's definitely not nothing. Any one of us, you and me, would love to have $10,000. You know, that's great.
But I don't want baby all rubbed on me for the 10.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And that's what she was testifying about, that she would perform for 24 to 30 hours straight with no sleep with different guys, and that she never wanted to have sex with any of them.
Here's the problem. She says she memorialized her not wanting to have sex with multiple men in writing.
Yeah.
How's that a problem?
Well, I mean, that could be very effective as far as documenting that she really did, that she was really forced into it, rather than it being a free choice.
So we can assume they have text messages.
I would expect tomorrow we will see text messages. Right. I think we'll also hear testimony about physical violence based on what we've heard from the statement so far. And then the question is how she holds up on cross, you know? So we have a lot more to get out of this witness, both on direct and on cross.
Absolutely.
It's way too early to know, for me at least, to weigh in as to the effectiveness of her testimony, because, you know, Vanna looked great during direct also.
They all
look great on direct. They all look great on direct.
Some
would stand cross, others don't. I thought Deontay Nash, I thought he looked great on cross, you know?
Well, here's my problem with Mr. Nash. Cassie is his best friend. He would do anything for her.
Yeah, that's true.
He would do anything. He made skewed testimony for her.
That's very possible.
Now we think about what his testimony is, and then we think about with the last witness testimony. It seems like everyone came in sync at some point to provide certain testimony.
I can understand that perspective.
So we want to wait.
I can even strengthen that for you if you want.
Yeah, let's go.
I can strengthen that position. And I will tell you this. My position about this, frankly, is I don't like the government. And from what I've seen of Diddy, I don't like Diddy. I don't like either party here. I don't care if he gets convicted or acquitted, because I think that the government charges here are not the right charges based on what he's done and what those charges are meant to do. Those charges are meant to stop people from kidnapping folks and pimping them out, and that's not at all what was happening here.
Right.
But so I think these charges are ridiculous.
Good point.
I mean,
made a good point. Right
it's supposed to be stopping people who want to make money by kidnapping people and then basically stealing their value from them, saying, I'm going to sell you off sexually and take the money for myself.
This is not that.
That's not this at all.
This is not that.
He didn't want, and that's why they say that it's forcible commercial sex. He didn't want it to be commercial. He just couldn't get them to do it for free. If he got them to do it for free, he would have been happy. He would have been happier.
Right.
And then it's not a crime at all.
Right.
So that's what makes these charges to me ridiculous. At the same time, I can't stand by and say that I'm all okay with the way this guy treats women. I think he's monstrous. I think that he drugs them up. I think he punches the hell out of them. I think he's a terrible human being. He's very talented. He works crazy hard. He does phenomenal work as an artist. But as a human being, he's a freak who's a monster. So he's a control freak and monster. So I don't like either side here. That's why, to me, I'm very curious to watch the chess match between the government and the defense.
Absolutely.
And see how well they're doing
it. This witness right here, I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this witness right here, Teeny Garagos is going to be doing the cross-examination.
Yeah.
How do you think she will do? You think Westmoreland should do this?
She's not bad. I think Westmoreland's the best I've seen.
You think Westmoreland should do this?
Westmoreland's really good.
And this is what I've been saying. Sometimes you got to let the six person off the bench step up. Miss Westmoreland, if you look at the many times the government has objected to her made objections, what did the judge say? Overruled. Yeah. Overruled. Keep it going.
Rephrase it. He might be like
rephrase it.
Yeah.
Rephrase it, but she's getting a lot in to the jurors. Yeah. She's able to get a lot in, and she's very animated, and she's saying certain words like, okay. Yeah. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, tell everyone how they can follow you.
My name is Joe Neerman. You can find me on YouTube at Good Logic, or you can find me on Rumble at Good Logic, or on X at The Following Pro, because I have a show called The Following Program. That's how you can remember The Following Pro. The program was too long. So it's at The Following Pro on X.
We're going to tag you. We're going to put your social medias in this post after we're done.
Appreciate it,
Thank you, counsel. I'll see you tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dennis Byron here reporting live outside the federal courthouse in New York City, where Jane Doe is still under direct examination. You heard it. You heard it from a second person. And we got a third person over here, but I don't know if you want to get on camera right now. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you back tomorrow on this channel as well as YouTube. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms at Mr. Dennis Byron, and follow our official website at hiphopinquirer.com. I'll see you on the next live. Bow!